Hello and welcome. My name is Hanno Bunjas, and I'm happy to be with you all today. Thank you for joining this session on application governance with Identity Manager. So the main question that we're trying to answer today is, how does Identity Manager help you prove that your applications are under governance? Central to application governance is the persona of an application owner. So application owners are the ones who manage applications, who know exactly which entitlements and roles an application consists of. So once business applications are defined, owners can then manage how access to these applications can be requested in the IT shop of Identity Manager. Key performance indicators help validate compliance against business objectives. Application governance contains a set of predefined KPIs to track compliance over time. Governance-relevant information can be defined based on these business applications. So once you have established applications as a concept, you can leverage this information when defining, for example, SOD rules, or for example, saying that no one should have access to two critical business applications at the same time. The next release of Identity Manager will include this new application governance module that bring applications to the data model as a first-class citizen. Let me take a moment to clarify some things that application governance is not. For example, it's not about connectors or mapping fields. Data import from external systems happens before you define business applications. Application governance does not care how exactly entitlement data is imported into the system. It's also not something low-level or technical. It's not something that is reserved for IT or operations teams. It's very much about something that is involving the business team members who are the subject matter experts for business applications. Also, it's worth pointing out that application governance is an optional new module, and it does not change how the various Identity Manager components interact with one another. Application governance works on top of everything else. It's not an architectural change. It adds functionality to the IT shop, it adds functionality to attestation and to other modules, but it does not replace any of those components. So what is an application? The business application simply is comprised of a set of entitlements. If you import data, entitlements often exist as a simple flat list. And bringing these entitlements under governance is mostly about organizing them into larger and more manageable units, the applications. For example, one entity has customers who use an ADLDS tree to implement thousands or 10,000s of business application authorizations. A business application may not exist as such in any one target system. It may span several types of target systems. What is an entitlement? It can be anything from the Identity Manager data model that you would expect. It could be a system entitlement from the unified namespace, which is our abstraction of all possible target systems. It could be a system role, which itself bundles entitlements. Resources or account definitions, as well as report authorizations, can also be added as entitlements to applications. It's worth saying that, of course, you can mix entitlements from different types into one application. Let's take a look at creating an application. This is the simple web form that the administrator uses to create a new application in the system. The interface prompts for just a few properties that are central to the definition of an application. There are actually lots more. You have the option to create a new service category or to reuse an existing one. This integrates well with a situation where you may already have configured entitlements and service categories, and you're just now moving to define applications. Once you've added the application to the system, you can add new entitlements or roles at any time. Here you have the option of publishing entitlements to the IT shop, one or several at a time. Unpublishing is the opposite, removing the entitlement from the shop and revoking users' access. Here's what happens when I click Publish. I see the list of IT shops that the entitlements will be published in. IT shops define the scope of service items visible for a given user. You can have different shops to define different catalogs for groups of users. For example, if you want to organize the shops by region or by department, for example. It's easy to schedule a date in the future when the entitlements should be added to the shop. You can set up a publishing date now so that users will be able to request access starting next month, for example. And once you've told the system to publish the new entitlement, note the new state. Let's take a closer look at publishing entitlements. As I know some of you are very familiar with the internal architecture of Identity Manager, and you may have been wondering, what about service items? But the good news is, when an entitlement is published, a service item is created if necessary, so you don't need to do that manually. The entitlement will become available through the assigned IT shops and the selected service category. These use cases are all available in the web UI. There is no need to deploy a .NET front-end like the Manager tool to do this. Here's another cool feature that we built, the on-the-fly row creation. When adding entitlements to the application, you also have the option of grouping related entitlements in a row. Why should you do this? Well, this is useful in a scenario where different entitlements should only be requestable as a bundle and not individually. This is a long requested feature for all of Identity Manager, and we're now able to bring this feature to the product. But there's more to the application. This is all information that the application owner can enter. Does the application run in a test environment, in staging, or in production? What kind of authentication does the application implement? Single sign-on, federation, or multi-factor authentication? There's also the notion of risk classification. Does this application provide access to critical systems? If so, a risk index will need to be set on the application. And who needs to approve access to this application? Every application can be assigned an approver role to determine who gets to approve access. Every application corresponds to a service category in the IT shop. Now, if you recall, service categories define the navigation in the web portal. So an end user goes in, finds a service category containing the relevant entitlements, and submits a request. It's important to note that entitlements can also belong to a different service category. If you have an application consisting of a large number of entitlements, it makes sense to split them up in several service categories, as this will help users find the right items for the right access that they need. Let's now move on to key performance indicators. On the application's overview page, the application owner is presented with a set of KPIs that measure different things about this application. As you can see here immediately, some KPIs do not meet the required threshold. So you can click on them to drill down to find the root cause. The data for all these key performance indicators is recorded in the system, so you can track the evolution over time. Here are some examples for application-specific KPIs. All entitlements should have an assigned owner. No entitlements should cause a compliance or SOD violation. No entitlements should cause a company policy violation. All applications should be part of an attestation campaign. And an application should not have any outlier entitlements, meaning that entitlements come from an unrelated system and the assignment was likely made in error. An application should never have an excessive number of assignments, also pointing to a potential error in the data. There are also global KPIs relating to the system as a whole and available to the system administrator to give an overview of how many applications there are, how many entitlements have been organized into applications, and how many applications are integrated with authentication mechanisms, managed by recertification campaigns, and so on. Now, in this session, you may have noticed that the screenshots look a lot different than the look and feel of previous Identity Manager web apps. The reason is that we've built this on our new HTML5 stack that will become the foundation of all of Identity Manager's web applications over time. While rewriting, we've also spent a lot of time on the look and feel. And I think this represents a major step forward for the product in terms of user experience. Thanks also to our dedicated user experience team, who has spent a significant effort to talk to partners and customers about their ideas, and requirements for bringing business applications under governance. And one of the cool things about the Unite conferences is always the UX Whisper Suite. And some of you will remember those. And this feedback was extremely important to us, especially when building the application governance module. So I look forward to having that back once we all get to meet in person again. But in the meantime, please do reach out, and we want to hear about your ideas and thoughts. Let me close by summarizing what we've covered in this session. The application governance module for the Entity Manager delivers an easy way for application owners to determine who can request entitlements, choose specific entitlements for certification campaigns, validate key performance indicators against business objectives, and publish applications to the IT Shop Service Catalog. And that concludes my session for today. I want to thank you for joining me. Please enjoy the rest of Unite. Thank you.